I don't want to spend too much time on this topic since we've talked about it the past couple of videos, but we seriously need to just universally accept. Like, I'm not saying everyone has to agree because it's impossible to have 100% of the population, or in this case, 100% of the people watching Failure Frame agree to this, but the majority has to at this point, right? This is the biggest anime glow-up an isekai has ever seen. Anime having a random 1 week break, hell, sometimes if it's real bad, they have 2 breaks in the middle of a 12 episode season. Anime production is, it cuts it close every episode, so them, running into a delay where they have to just, they release the recap episode because they gotta release something, they already paid for the TV slot, and they hopefully get the next episode done. But usually when that happens, you might have one good-looking episode, and then the rest, start to fall off. And what did Failure Frame do? No freaking idea how. But seriously, a single week break went from every other or every 3 scenes being a random 3D Maya animated looking conversation, not in action, just they'd be randomly 3D modeling in a room, and then back to 2D, and then a room with 3D. It's like, it was so distracting. The 3D, the action was always good, they blended it pretty decent, and I always thought to myself, if they just removed that weird jankiness, like, this show would legitimately be one of the better looking shows of the season. They take a single week break off, and rather than every other frame being like, why are they doing this? It just all looks good now. And then the fact with how much action we had, with characters jumping and flipping, they primarily kept it all 2D too. I need a documentary of the behind the scenes of what the hell happened at the Failure Frame office, because I've never seen a glow up this powerful from a single week break. This is the type of jumping quality you would expect if they took a month off. I have full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought to any of these episodes. It's going to be over there exclusively. So, very good episode, not only just for the visuals, but the first half of the episode we get basically the reveal of the plan, and the second half we kind of form a party, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. First things first, the plan. So we knew Toga had something in mind. I wasn't sure exactly what he was going to do, so we send our elven friend down. She's the only one there, and then you have the Diddy party squad. Like, this man's talking about how he's gonna give you his religion and print your babe. It's like, this man invented Diddy parties before Diddy was even born, man. Like, this dude just gave me bad vibes. And his whole posse just with their bow and arrows, like, you could tell the reason they use poison on their arrows. It's not so there's no trace. No, it's probably because they have piss poor aim and they just need to make sure they die. But the idea that she initially tries to lure them into the forest, and then this dude's like, hey, you think we're dumb? You clearly want us all in the forest, and at most you only would need a couple of us to follow. Very obvious lie, but honestly her acting was good, because I truly thought she wasn't in on what the plan was, and just she might know, like, hey, get him into the forest. Because her response and how she was starting to feel defeated actually came across as believable. So honestly, props to the VA and the good work that they did for the facial animation, because she actually stumped me a little. But the idea that they're under the assumption, you need us in the forest, and clearly that's when we're gonna get jumped. So we'll stay out here, clearly having caught your bullshit, but in actuality, all he needed to do was make them drop their guard, because they are under the assumption as long as they don't go into the forest, they won't get attacked, not having any belief that this man can charge up Piggymaru, activate his slime trump card, and have range that is gonna completely jump them. And what's kind of cool about that is that he can't just randomly pull Piggymaru out and have unlimited range. We know from when he attacked the strongest warriors, in that area, like, it does take a little bit to activate, and most importantly, it's a toll, both on Piggymaru as well as his own mana and everything like that. And the idea that they even continue to expand what his limitations are is really cool, and I think that's what makes the action so fun. You tell me before the season, this man's only going to use stuff like poison, paralyze, blinding spells, stuff like that. I'd say that might be okay, but it's probably going to lose its charm pretty quick. But I really haven't grown bored. They introduce currently his limit, so it seems like 80 is currently how much he can, like, paralyze at one time, because he does reach the cap, and then he switches to dark. And honestly, it was just really cool, because rather than it being all on his own shoulders, he's doing a good job, and then our new friend coming out, she was beheading fools left and right. And that cold line she delivered to this man, basically, if you would have just came after me, probably could have forgave it. But when you come after her, that's when basically the gloves come off, and she beheaded a fool, man. I kind of felt bad though, like, I don't know the full context of the political powers in this world, but that king or whoever that was sitting on his throne, basically being like, shit man, I was gonna use them as pawns. I don't want to face the goddess. You don't need to know a lot about people in this world to know that they probably have a relatively good reason to be fearful of that goddess because she is stanky bitch. Like, there's no other way to put that. It was a very cute scene at the very end of the episode if you watch after the credits. So we know he has that goodie bag, which can randomly bring about random ass items. And the fact that I think it was chocolate they were eating. Either way, just like the idea of just imagining how bland and boring most shit in this world probably tastes. I'm not saying like there isn't some spots where maybe food's seasoned decently, but you can tell damn well that if you bring a Kit Kat bar or some chocolate-coated cracker into this world, and they're used to just beef stew and bread, yeah, I think especially for someone who just lived a life being taught by this horrible wench of a woman, that if she doesn't have big breasts, she'll fail as a woman. Yeah, like, it's a night and day difference. But I think my favorite part of this episode overall came around the campfire, where our boy's pretty honest about his tale of revenge. And he's saying, you know, I'm not a good person. This is all selfish. I want to kill a bitch. I'll kill people who get in my way. I can relate to this girl because I grew up in a very similar situation, but I grew up in a situation which makes me want to go kill those fools. And I love the idea that at this point they've actually bonded a decent amount. Like, in a way, you could argue it's kind of like, you know, the author is forcing a ship, like some sort of romance dynamic between these two, because ultimately, you know, it helps sell stuff. But I actually think they did a pretty good job, and I'm sure it's more fleshed out in the source material, of course, but I think they did a serviceable job at making me feel like, despite it being a little fast-paced, and for him mostly being focused on revenge, I actually feel like there's some decent chemistry between these two, and I don't think this show is a below average show by any stretch. I think visually it can be below average, but obviously has in the past few. But in terms of its actual revenge tale isekai, I don't really have an issue with how they handled Toka as a character. This show is actually really cool, and if they made a season 2, I would gladly watch. But that's all from me. Let me know what you're thinking of this episode, this arc, and what do you think the Witch of Taboo is going to introduce? Let me know down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we have those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll give you a video shout out. Alrighty, so today we got Akani, Nipsey, C, you get Akbis, Dennis Jansen, Groudon Vert, Colton Nutter, James Reinhardt, Abraham Velquitz, and we also have Duncan Goodwin. I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. You all have a good one.